Britain has a long history stretching back thousands of years. In every part, at some point, a bloody or mysterious event has taken place. Murders, bloodthirsty revenge, plagues, punishment and folklore will make your flesh creep in terror. This is Mysterious Britain, Tales of the Unknown. The 16th century was a superstitious time, a time when people believed that demons and witches walked the world, manipulating and affecting the lives of men, women and children. Accusations of witchcraft were commonplace, with neighbours accusing each other of performing foul deeds to bring woe to the other. But not all accusations were believed to be true, and the case of the boy from Burton was exposed to be a lie. On the 27th of February 1598, teenager Thomas Darling was out taking a walk through Winsell Woods, where he passed Alice Gooderidge, a 60-year-old local woman who had a reputation of being odd. As the two passed, Thomas broke wind and gave a bark of laughter. Alice, however, for a moment stood, staring at Thomas, before she stretched out and pointed a bony finger at him, saying, "Gypped with mischief and fart with a bell, I will go to heaven and thou shalt go to hell." Thomas felt humiliated by Alice's witty remark and returned home, where he decided to get his own back. He soon began suffering from fits and hallucinations where he claimed to have been tormented by a demon. Thomas claimed his ailments were caused by a spell cast upon him by Alice. Immediately, Alice was arrested by the authorities and questioned. At first, she denied the charge of being a witch, and the authorities suspected her of lying. So Alice was stripped naked and searched for the devil's mark and told to recite the Lord's Prayer. She failed and was given a new pair of shoes and forced to put her feet into the flames of a fire. Alice was interrogated to confess while her feet were slowly being burnt. In agony, she eventually confessed to being in the devil's pay and was thrown into prison to await her execution. Thomas, meanwhile, had made a miraculous recovery the moment Alice was arrested. Suspicions grew, as it was generally believed that the curse would suffer until the witch had been executed or cleansed. As suspicion mounted, the authorities took Thomas in for questioning, where he confessed to his deception. But for Alice it was too late, as she had died in her dark, damp and filthy cell. Thomas was let off with nothing more than a stern warning, but would get his comeuppance 7 years later when he had his ears cut off for libelling the Vice-Chancellor of Oxford University. London is a city which can trace its history back to Roman Britain. Over the years since its founding, London has seen many bloody battles and murders. As a result, many ghost sightings have been reported, and London is considered one of the most haunted cities in the world. But not all tales of the paranormal are well known, as in the case of Lady Hatton. Sometime during the reign of Elizabeth I, Sir Christopher Hatton hosted a great ball at his mansion in Clerkenwell in order to show off his daughter. His daughter, whose name is never mentioned, was reputed to be beautiful and was sought after in marriage by many local gentlemen. But Lady Hatton was opposed to being forced to marry and had often voiced her desire never to marry, like the Queen. But with women having little rights in the 16th century, Lady Hatton was told that a great ball was to be held so that a suitor could be chosen. Lady Hatton was said to have wept all night long and paused only to make a deal with the devil. On the night of the ball, the guests arrived and made merry, but from the many bachelors, none were deemed to be suitable, and none petitioned Sir Hatton for the hand of his daughter. As the party was in full swing, a sinister black-robed figure strode into the ballroom, took Lady Hatton by the hand and led her outside. Suddenly there was a crash and a terrifying scream. The guests all dashed outside, but the black-robed figure and Lady Hatton were nowhere to be seen. But lying in a pool of blood was Lady Hatton's freshly torn out heart. The devil had come for payment. Though many would deem this tale as nothing more than simple folklore, you can go and see the place and stand on the spot that is now called Bleeding Heart Yard. Though London has many infamous sites that are reputedly haunted, it is perhaps the lesser known hauntings that are truly terrifying. 50 Berkeley Square is said to be the most haunted house in London. People report hearing screams and the sound of footsteps. The attic room of the house is haunted by the spirit of a young woman who committed suicide there. She reportedly threw herself from the top floor window after being abused by her uncle, and is said to be capable of frightening people to death. For years the house stood empty for fear of the ghost. In 1887, 2 sailors from HMS Penelope broke into the house for somewhere to rest for the night. They went up into the attic and began to sleep. Soon, in the early hours, they were awoken by a scream and the sound of footsteps coming up the stairs. Blood began oozing from the walls and pooling on the floor. One of the sailors dashed out of the attic, down the stairs and out of the house, not stopping until he was at the nearby police station. At first light, the sailor and a police officer returned to the house and were met by a horrific scene. Impaled upon the railings was the other sailor, who had become so frightened that he had jumped out from the window, though some say that he was pushed out by the spirit of the young woman. To this day, 50 Berkeley Square remains haunted, though modern researchers have suggested that the house was never haunted, and that many of the stories were either exaggerated or invented by later writers. But ultimately, it comes down to, do you believe?